Hey, you guys, I decided to do a quick pre-recorded kind of a prelude to tomorrow's live that we'll do discussing some Erikson psychosocial theory. I am just delighted to be here. I'm delighted that you're here. Thanks for watching. Please hit your like button, share, make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notification bell. I do a lot of my lives kind of on the spot, like what I call a surprise live. Rarely these days do I give even a couple of minutes notice. So it was interesting, wasn't it, earlier today when I gave 3 minutes notice, and it took a few minutes for people to come into the live. So I think it's fair to say that there could be something going on. Again, there's glitches with our social media platforms, so I don't like to just jump to that it's a targeted kind of thing. But we all know that that happens, and especially when you're touching on specific cases and when you're touching sore spots and when there's people who are sore. So, anyway, I like to stay positive. I don't like to focus on that. I like to just keep doing my thing. Everything I say is simply my opinion. It is for the sake of conversation, always hoping to learn something and have an educational discussion that other people find to be beneficial as well. And my videos to date have all been made for YouTube, and we know YouTube, it's an entertainment platform, right? So let's just talk for a few minutes. I don't have this well planned out because I really like to be spontaneous. That's just kind of who I am. So I wanted to speak a little bit more about Erikson. I looked up some of the birth dates so I would know like time of birth, time of death. Um, so Erik Erikson was born in 1902. Did I get that right? And then he died in 1994. So I did my math wrong. He would have been, yeah, he would have been 92. I did do my math right. I used to be really good at math before I had kids, and then it like erased that part of me brain. So that's my excuse. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anyway, Erik Erikson passed away the same year that I started graduate school. It's interesting because he is my all-time favorite as far as his theories and how helpful I find them. Before graduate school, I was what you would call a Jungian, and that's Carl Jung, spelled Jung. Carl Jung was born in 1875 and he passed away in 1961. He was sort of like the granddaddy of the archetypes, and he was also super tight with Sigmund Freud. There were 10 years age difference. Freud was 10 years his senior. He really looked up to Freud until they had a falling out, and it devastated Carl Jung. It just about took him out. He idolized Freud. There might have been more to their relationship. I don't know because they were in Italy, and things like that don't happen in Italy. Guys aren't like that in Italy. They just all go to the bath places, and nobody's that way, right? Anyway, Carl Jung was 86 when he passed away in 61. Sigmund Freud, born in, wait a second, how did I get this wrong? Freud was 10 years older than Jung? I must have gotten something wrong. Anyway, I'll just go with it. I don't mind being wrong. But I was pretty sure that Freud was older than Jung. Get it? Jung? Anyway. So Freud, I wrote down that he was born in 1885 and that he died in 1931. And he was 54 years old when he died. What I learned in graduate school turned me into a fan of Sigmund Freud. I did not like Sigmund Freud prior to really learning what was beneath the surface of Freudian psychology. He's pretty much considered the inventor of psychoanalysis, and he's not. But he made it his life's mission to be famous. That was his thing. He wanted to be remembered. In my opinion, he didn't really care if his ideas were helpful. He just wanted to be remembered and famous. Complete opposite of one of my other favorites, who's Alfred Adler. So Adler was born in 1870. died in 1937, was 67 years old. Alfred Adler was the granddaddy of individual psychoanalysis, psychotherapy. I'd say Freud was more the analysis, Adler was more therapy. Um, he really didn't care if he was famous. You've probably never heard of him if you don't have a degree in psychology. And even with a bachelor's degree, maybe you've never heard of Adler. Um, he didn't care if he was famous, but he wanted his ideas to be remembered, and his ideas are remembered. He's not so much, but his ideas are sort of the fabric of our society, in my opinion. So he was 67 when he died in 1937. 2 years later, Freud died at 54. And then about what, 22 years later, Jung died at 86. And then 33 years after that, Erikson died at 92. So Adler, Freud, Jung, and a female psychologist or psychiatrist, probably a psychologist, Karen Horney, who I'm not that familiar with. I didn't write down her how old she was and when she was born and all that. But those four had a social circle and they worked together. They had what they called parlor meetings where they would get together routinely. I think it was weekly. And they would just sit and talk for hours about their theories and philosophies and everything else. So that was Adler, Freud, Jung, and Karen Horney. And I think there were a couple others that kind of came in and out of that cohort. But what I wanted to say about Freud, what stunned me the most, what I learned in graduate school, and there's a book called The Denial of the Seduction Theory. So, Freud, we all know, came up with the terms Oedipus complex and Oedipus complex. And he built a lot of his career on that. He was basically calling out people for um, exploiting their children, but he was putting the blame on the children that they were seducing their parents because, he was crazy and a jerk. In my humble conspiracy theory opinion. Anyway, he was not popular because he was telling what he knew as the truth, what he was learning from his patients, from his clients, which were pretty much all female, and they were pretty much all neurotic, and they pretty much all had been abused on a very intimate level by a male parent. So he went public with that information when he figured this pattern out. Unfortunately, he was calling out his peers and they didn't like it. So he literally took back his theory. And there's a book written called The Denial of the Seduction Theory. He took those papers that he wrote, he took that research, and he literally put it in a safe. And then he went full fledged with the denial of the seduction theory and said, "Oh, I got it wrong. I thought they were speaking literally when really they were having fantasies that their male parents did this to them because they're perverts, right? I mean, this is why I didn't like Freud. This is why a lot of people don't like Freud because they don't understand where he was coming from. So he was trying to salvage his career, he was trying to salvage his relationships in Vienna. Um, and he didn't really have the moral compass and the ethics. However, I was not alive during that time, so who am I to judge? I mean, it was a very different time, and it's really hard, if not impossible, to talk about things that are taboo. And if you're the person uncovering these deep, dark secrets, you better deny them, or you might just naturally, accidentally self inflict something that's fatal upon yourself, right? I mean, that's nothing new. That is nothing new. So yeah, it's really important to me to sort of just lay out the foundation of psychology with those icons of the theories. And Erikson came into the picture a little bit later, and was that just yesterday that I was going over the seven psychosocial theories, or was that Friday probably? And I just did a pop quiz and I got them all, you guys. I even said before I started that I couldn't remember them all off the top of my head, like off the back of my hand, but I did because they changed my life. The Erikson's psychosocial theory of sociological social development is phenomenal. It's profound. And he was just a master. He was a really, really interesting gentleman. Um, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm trying to keep this one short. I'm at 11 minutes already, and I wanted to touch on a few things that I didn't get to in today's live. Thank you, everybody who was there. But I had to wrap it up pretty quickly because I had a meeting and I had lost track of time a little bit. Everything was fine, of course. I always like to let you guys know that though. And so I had a few minutes here where I was able to do this. And let's see, therapists can be like detectives, right? People tell us things that they might not tell anybody else. And we're, of course, sworn to confidentiality. Um, Privileged information is a level above confidential information, but then you get into law and ethics, and it's unethical to share somebody's secrets, but it's illegal to not share somebody's secrets if they're telling you about a crime that they were involved in. So that can get very tricky. If they were the victim of a crime, or if they were the perpetrator of a crime, or if they were a witness of a crime, it's illegal to not divulge that information to the authorities. So laws and ethics, there's a lot of gray area, and you have to do what's right for yourself. You have to do what's right for your clients. You've got to go with what's legal. You got to go with what's ethical. But sometimes those two conflict. And I tried to say it a few weeks ago and I said it all wrong. It was hilarious. I said sometimes what's legal is unethical, but other times what's unethical is legal or something. I said the same thing both ways, but of course you guys know what I meant. That sometimes what is legal is unethical, and sometimes what's illegal is ethical. It is true. It's just, life just ain't so easy. It's not so cut and dry. If it were, it'd be a lot simpler, but it's up to each one of us to know what it is that we need to do for ourselves, and to know ourselves and to know the laws, because not knowing, ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking the law. So you need to know your rights and you need to know the laws. However, laws are interpreted differently by different people. So even if you know all the laws, you can still have a different interpretation of them than someone else. And this is why there's lawsuits and debates, and, there's no clear cut and dry right and wrong in most things, in most cases. Usually, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we've all done something that we're not proud of, and that can and will be taken and used against you, especially if you're involved in a lawsuit, which is one reason why people shy away from lawsuits, because they don't want their dirty laundry being dredged up. And even if you don't think you have dirty laundry, they'll find something. And it might not be true, it might not be accurate, but if somebody wants to find dirt on you, they will. So we all know that. And we know that having a lawsuit is expensive and it's a hassle. But it's important. It's important to stand your ground, and it's important to do what you can within the system that we have here. It's a flawed system. It leaves a lot to be desired, But for the time being, it's all we have that is legal, ethical, and that could be argued if it's ethical because there's all kinds of stuff that I've seen in court that's not ethical. I've seen illegal things in court. This is why I filed a lawsuit against my employer and won. I mean, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I tried to resolve it on every lower level that I possibly could. And that wasn't just by choice, but that is absolutely necessary when you're suing a government agency. You are required to jump through hoops and firewalls, basically. The government does a good job of protecting themselves. Any institution is going to do a good job of protecting itself. But what's important, the institution or the people in the institution? I'm with the humans. That's my thing. So, I look at a situation like the University of Idaho, and I don't care that much for the university. I care about the people that are part of the university. Um, that whole thing is a real nightmare. And um, I wanted to say something about the Kylie Rodney case because that's another nightmare that I've been real focused on, as you know. And this was a quote that was in one of the early press conferences slash community meetings. Like, why did they call these press conferences community meetings? And why did they have law enforcement like guarding the doors, like so nobody could leave, nobody could come in? So that people knew that they were being threatened, that they better act a certain way. That's what I think. I think it's all the above. But one of the things that was said at one of these community meetings slash press conferences that has been getting rehashed lately by the likes of Ara and Shan and Ninja Chihuahua and Mark Molina and Divine Justice, aka Mrs. G, the Honey Badger. This is the quote: if you saw something really gruesome. So the authorities were saying in that meeting, that community meeting slash presser, that if you saw something really gruesome, quote unquote, if you saw something really gruesome, why would they say that? They're talking to the community of Truckee in the days immediately following Kylie Rodney's alleged disappearance. And they're saying, if you saw something really gruesome, we have therapists for you. If you saw something really gruesome, there's mental health support. What could they possibly be referring to, you guys? Like, that didn't come out of the blue. This is the thing, is when people say things, they think they're being abstract, but there's like infinite word choices and sentence structures that you can go with. So the ones that you happen to pick, you picked for a reason. The if you saw something really gruesome leads me to believe that something happened to Kylie that was really gruesome. And was it a friendly fight that she overreacted and unalived? I mean, seriously. I'm not putting the blame on her, of course. I'm being kind of tongue in cheek. Was this a friendly fight that was really gruesome? Or was there something after the friendly fight that was really gruesome? Was she assaulted in other ways by other people? Because something happened that was really gruesome. I guarantee it. They wouldn't have said this at a community meeting. And again, you've got the guards standing right there. Don't look sideways. Don't blink. Um, and I'm already at 20 minutes. Maybe I will wrap up, but let me look in my other notebook real quick because there might be something that I really wanted to add in here. If there's something that I missed, I can get it into our live tomorrow. Um, yeah. The the parallels that we see with Idaho 4 and with Truckee, parallels beyond a certain University of Idaho student that went back to Reno. Um, Parallels beyond, references to the Handmaid Tale. That's Both of these situations were parties of young adults, young kids that were almost adults, and somebody or somebodies didn't survive, but others did, and nobody knows nothing. In both of these cases, nobody knows nothing. Everybody that was there that night of August 6th, nobody knows a damn thing. Everybody who was in Moscow at the Corner Club and at the Grub Truck and at the 1122 King Road residence and across the street, nobody knows a damn thing. Nobody saw anything, nobody heard anything. Now, that's just not realistic. That's a lie. That's a lot of lies, in my opinion. Um, so I want to say too that it is the parents of a victim that drive the pursuit of justice. It's not generally law enforcement, it's not generally other friends and family, it's the parents when it's a younger person. If it's a more of a adult age person, it's going to be the spouse or maybe sometimes the kids if the kids are adults. But you have to have that key family member who's pushing really hard, making sure that law enforcement leaves no stone unturned. And you don't have that in the Kylie Rodney case. I think you have that in Idaho for at least with some of the victims, possibly not with all of them. And why would you not do that unless you have something to hide? It's a question. It is a question. I also would like to clarify. I think it was Friday when I brought up a famous news reporter, investigative journalist who was very candid about her bipolar 2 diagnosis that she got at the age of 50. And I said Katie Couric, and I was very sketchy about it. I was like, I think it was Katie Couric. If not, it was somebody like her. It wasn't Katie Couric. It was Jane Pauley. So I just wanted to clarify that. Again, thank you so much for watching my videos. I hope you're having a great day. It is almost 2 o'clock, October 24th, and I will see you tomorrow morning on the next live. Peace out. Sending you light, sending you love. Love will save the day. It does every single time. And this one back here says tranquility in little Scrabble pieces because it's just so cute. Anyway, take really good care of yourself. Do whatever it is that inspires you. Don't listen to anybody. Although sometimes it's best to listen to people because, they might have good ideas or it might just make your life easier. But be true to yourself. Being yourself is the most magnificent and wisest thing that you can do right now, today, right here. So, peace out, folks. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.